Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me, as usual, a Scottish man in Rome, Alistair Mackenzie. Hello, Alistair.
Good evening. Hello. And yeah, it's been a very good evening. Just fresh back from the stadium and quite happy to say that we're in the last 32, of the Europa League.
Yep, they were saying it was a really tough group this year for Lazio. Olympique Marseille, let's not forget, reached the final last year, beating Salzburg in the semi-final, who have beat Lazio before. So, you could expect a very tough group. Frankfurt is playing really well. They won today 3-2. But Lazio, for the second year in a row, achieved the qualification with two matches in advance. So I think that's a very, very positive result for the team. Especially Alistair, considering that Inzaghi anyway had a massive rotation in the European leg matches.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's real, again, another signal of the strength of depth of this team that they've gone, and like you say, it's by no means been an easy group. I think for any of us to suggest we would have been guaranteed qualification to the next round with 2 games to spare, that would sound incredibly ambitious in any Europa League group, but in this one where we're up against last year's runners-up as well as Frankfurt and Apollon, it would have seemed like a bit of a dream, to be honest. And yet, to take 6 points from 2 games against Marseille is, it's an incredible return, really. I think that, as well as being evidence of Lazio having good strength and depth, it's also evidence that, in my mind, Inzaghi's got a better idea of how to use that strength and depth and who to play when. And I'm sure we'll still have suggestions about various people who should or should not have played. But for me, it's very encouraging to come away with this.
Yeah, well, that's obvious, right? It's football. Every fan has his opinion. Every fan has his selected starting 11. So, it makes sense. Everybody wants to see that type of player starting instead of another one. But again, Inzaghi made the right decision today, probably, and it wasn't easy because let's not forget that this was just the second start from Cataldi from the beginning, the first for Berisha, the first for Durmisi after the Frankfurt match when he got injured after a couple of minutes. So you had pretty much a brand new midfield, and it's never easy, especially in the first minutes, to play well with so many new players in the midfield. But overall, I think that Lazio played very well, and Inzaghi gave space to a lot of players that are really interesting, and so that's really positive, I thought.
Yeah, you're absolutely right to point out the midfield, because to have Cataldi, Berisha and Durmisi all in there is, if you'd suggested that a couple of weeks ago, it would have seemed very unlikely. I mean, Berisha and Durmisi, obviously, because of injury problems, and Cataldi, who's kind of come in from the cold and within a week has really put his hand up as being a very, very, very good option for Lazio. And it was always going to be very difficult for him to live up to the standard of his performance on Sunday, but I think he did a good enough job tonight to definitely suggest that he's very comfortable in this team and at this level. So I was encouraged by Cataldi. Like I say, I think it was going to be impossible for him to go and do as well as he did last time. But, 2-1 win, and the midfield was pretty effective, I think.
I thought, Alistair, it was a very complicated match for Cataldi, this one, compared to last Sunday, because this is the last chance. It was the last chance for Olympique Marseille. If they didn't get points today, they were out of the Europe League. And I was a little bit surprised to see such attacking formation from Garcia, who usually it's a very defensive mind coach who likes counter-attack. So I thought, especially in the first half, it was quite difficult for Cataldi because he had so many players attacking in his position, and obviously he couldn't perform as well as last Sunday. But was probably a smarter performance because he was smart enough to recognize the situation and to play differently. I thought he attacked a little bit less, but the coverage he provided to the defense was good. So it's really encouraging to see how that type of player have improved, have matured in a certain way. And I thought this was really a tough test for him.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. It was a completely different challenge, wasn't it? I mean, the Spal game, Lazio were always going to be on the front foot and the team who were dictating the tempo, and the ball was going to come through him a lot in terms of constructing the attacking moves. But yeah, like you say, for large spells of the game tonight, it was kind of all hands on deck, a defensive performance from Lazio. I think that we did see different qualities from him. I think his positional sense and his interceptions he made, I think it goes to show that he's smart enough, like you say, to do a job in a defensive sense. After the way he played against Spal, we had more than one person say that they'd like to see him get pushed a bit further up the pitch because you could see what he can do from shooting from distance. But I think he's a well-rounded player, isn't he? And you mentioned last weekend that he'd been studying Spal, and I think he is, like the key word you used there was maturity. I think that finally we're seeing a guy who's starting to fulfill his potential, not so much because he's necessarily improved his technique or anything like that, but because he's really working out his role on the pitch a bit better. I mean, we've only seen him for 2 games, but it seems that way.
Yeah, and obviously he's different compared to Leiva and Badel. His mobility probably is better than Leiva. He's faster. Leiva has the experience advantage, the knowledge of that position, that sort of regista position in front of the defense. It's Leiva's natural position, I believe, while Cataldi has to adapt. So they're a little bit different, but you can see that Cataldi is doing everything to perform well in that position. As you were saying, it's not his natural position. He's more a mezzala, playing like Parolo or Berisha. But in big clubs, you have to adapt and play where you can, because otherwise you will stay on the bench all season long. So I thought that was a really encouraging performance from Cataldi. I was curious to see Berisha. Obviously, this was his first start, and he didn't play that much, so he was a little bit rusty again. But I think this player can give so much to the team that I want to see him playing more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was his first start tonight. I think I'm right in saying.
Yes.
And he's a player we've wanted to see for a while. Obviously, he's struggled with injury problems ever since he came in. I would say he didn't have the same impact from the start as he has off the bench so far, but I think you can forgive him that, because by the sounds of things, he's still very much in the kind of getting back to full fitness after his injury phase rather than being at his 100% best. So I think he did a decent job. He didn't set the world on fire, but it wasn't really that kind of game, I suppose. I mean, Lazio spent a lot of time off the ball tonight compared to what they're used to, and as a result, players like Berisha and Cataldi, for that matter, didn't get as much time to do what they like to do, which is get their foot on the ball and move it around and create space. Just having a quick look there, 59% possession for Marseille tonight, so that says a lot, really. But so I think we'll probably see the best of Berisha when he gets more time on the ball rather than off it.
Alistair, Inzaghi said in the press conference he was surprised to see Olympique Marseille playing with this 3-5-2. He said it was a 5-man defense. I don't agree, but I thought it was surprising to see Olympique Marseille attacking that much. I think Inzaghi said he was prepared for another type of match. I think Marseille playing like last match, so with a 4-man defense instead of this one. I thought, especially in the first half, that the two wingers, in this case Durmisi and Marusic, were too far behind. They were nearly all the match in line with the three defenders, and this obviously put under pressure the midfield of Lazio, because there were 3 against 5, and obviously it's very difficult when you 2 men down in that critical position like the midfield. I didn't like that much that type of mindset with Marusic and Durmisi playing too far behind. I believe it was a certain way of reacting to this change of tactics of Marseille, but I thought instead, if they were higher, Lazio could have put more pressure and be more dangerous immediately.
Yeah, I think it was like you say, like Inzaghi said. I mean, his instinct was to be quite conservative, I suppose, in reaction to what Marseille set up. Like, I mean, it was a surprise to see. I mean, Inzaghi, I think he said that they haven't played like that all season long, and then they've gone and done it tonight. So, the one thing building up to this game that was a little bit of a doubt in my mind was, you know, Lukaku's not on the Europa League list. Lulic is out with an injury problem, so it was always going to be either Durmisi coming back in the team after injury or Cáceres at left wing back. And it was Durmisi, and the one thing we know about Durmisi so far is that Inzaghi's not entirely convinced with him tactically so far. So perhaps I think Durmisi was sitting back a little bit more than he's naturally inclined to kind of counter the threat of Thauvin on the right wing. I mean, he's not necessarily a natural defender, Durmisi, from the brief amounts we've seen from him so far, so that could have been something to do with it. But yeah, I do think Lazio didn't invite pressure a bit too much, and at least in the first half, you know, the first 40 minutes or so of this game were pretty poor, really. I don't think Lazio had a shot until Parolo's goal went in. So at the end of the day, Strakosha's made some good saves, but defensively they just about held on.
I thought Wallace had a very good first half, and you know, I'm surprising to say this, but I really think it is. And one thing, it's very dangerous to give too much space to Thauvin. He's really, really good and very fast, so keep it far away from your box, because he can become very dangerous. And
yeah, you don't want to pass the ball directly to him, do you?
If you can, you could avoid it, but Parolo had this brilliant idea. And it was surprising to not see Poyet. I think it was the first time he didn't start from the beginning, and this was just the second time since Garcia took the managing position of Olympique Marseille that they played with a 3-5-2 tactic. So I think those were two surprises that Inzaghi wasn't ready for, and that's why Lazio struggled in the first half. But overall, I like the performance of Durmisi. I think that playing back deep, it's not his primary role.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there are some parallels with Marusic in that regard, in that when Marusic first came in last summer, Inzaghi was, we saw that his attacking qualities were his biggest strength, and Inzaghi kind of reined that in a little bit with him, because he was probably leaving a bit too much space behind him. And Durmisi, the same kind of thing seems to be happening. But yeah, he does offer something very different to Lulic, for example, on the left-hand side. He's got a lot of speed and technically looks to be a decent player. So I think if he can prove that he's capable of putting in a well-organised and kind of patient defensive shift like tonight, then he could be really useful. But you know, that's now bit of a selection headache. I mean, in a good way, but this is a kind of selection headache we like. But I don't know how you see this going forward. If all three of them are fit, Lukaku, Dermisi, and Lulic, it's going to be hard to keep everybody happy, I suppose.
Well, that's the problem with a big team, right? You have so many options, and I prefer to have those problems that have no option at all. And let's think about tonight. There was only one option available, and still you don't know what's going to happen next Sunday. So I prefer this way than the other one. Better have more option than less. And
it's a bit strange to have so many options on the left and so few on the right, though. Do you not think?
Yeah, I totally agree. That was and we said it's already this summer, right? When nobody came, and we said that Lazio needed a replacement for Basta, who now it's pretty much out of everything. But what I wanted to say is that it's better to have these options, this many options, and obviously Inzaghi has to send the right message. I'm choosing every time what give me the best solution for that moment. Which player I think it's gonna give me the best for? It's perfect for this match, and not the name. I mean, he's really good in that. You know, he selected the players who he thinks trained well and will perform better in this match. So I think Inzaghi proved that he's able to do it.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, well, one thing I want to get onto, and I know that some of our listeners want to get onto as well, is speaking of this rotation, is the goalkeeper position, and Strakosha being selected ahead of Silvio Proto again, because I mean, it's quite hard after tonight to come away and criticise that decision, because Strakosha made a number of saves during the game, and at the very end of the game made a very good save to stop Marseille getting a draw. But we know what he can do. You know, we've kind of come to expect that from him this season. He's won us points already with some great late saves. So he obviously started the last game, but were you surprised that Strakosha was again in the team tonight?
To be honest, I was, because I thought that Proto deserved it to start it today. But during the match, I understood the decision of Simone Inzaghi. He wanted to win tonight, and he knows what he gets from Strakosha. He knows that he's in a top form. While Proto, I don't want to say he played badly, because he didn't, but he didn't do nothing in the first two Europa League matches. So in a key match like that, probably Inzaghi, who was already resting other key players, said, okay, I want Strakosha to play this key match. The problem is, how did he send the message to Proto, and how will Proto react? Because obviously he came here knowing that he would play in the cup. He started playing in the cup, and now he's out. Probably he's gonna be back against Apollon, but how will he play? You know, knowing that the manager doesn't trust him, or thinking I need to prove that I'm good enough to play in the key matches as well as Strakosha.
Yeah, I've now found the question we had. It was Patrick Bowman. He said, any news or thoughts about why Proto doesn't get to play in any games? I mean, yeah, like you say, I think he was expected to be the cup keeper, and that's certainly how things started out. And yeah, he didn't do anything wrong. So I do find it a little bit surprising. I mean, I would say as well that I would expect him now to come back into the team now that for the Europa League, remaining Europa League group games. I mean, because obviously the qualification is secured. So obviously we still want to win the group, and that could be important in order to get an easier knockout tie. But I would have thought surely Proto would come back into the team for that, and I think it'd be a good idea as well to reintegrate him, because you know, last season Strakosha played every game, and we don't want to be in a situation where if anything happens to him, we are basically in completely uncharted territory where we don't know what to expect from whoever comes in next. I think it's healthy to have a number two that you know you can rely on, and the only way you know you can rely on them is by testing them out from time to time. Being a club as big as Lazio, you don't get any involvement in the Coppa Italia until the next year. So the only chance other than the league game to actually bring in your number two keeper is here. So yeah, I would like to see him basically get back into the team for the remaining two games and actually prove that he's capable and he does deserve trust in these matches.
Especially because we are talking about a goalkeeper that last year was starting and has started in the last year in teams that were playing the Europe League. We are not comparing him to... It's not Vargic anymore that you can trust. This and seeing him last summer in the trainings, in the friendly match, he looks a really good goalkeeper. So at the beginning we were even thinking, would he push Strakosha? Would he take his job? I thought Strakosha started the season really, really well, but I was thinking that Proto would have been able to play in the Europe League. Obviously, today Strakosha made at the beginning of the match and at the end of the match two amazing saves that probably allowed Lazio to win today. But we are not 100% sure that Proto would have done it as well.
Yeah. Moving up the pitch, we need to talk about Tucu Correa. Here's a comment from Rami Algendi. Correa can't be sitting on the bench anymore. The connection between him and Immobile is on fire. What did you think?
Well, it looks like Caicedo is injured, so he won't be able to play Sunday. So I think we already replied to the question. I think he's going to start even next Sunday against Sassuolo, because I don't know. Finally, Inzaghi said that Luis Alberto has something. He's recovering from a little problem, he said. And I believe that at this moment, without Caicedo, Correa is a starter. So I think he's going to start. I was expecting at the beginning a little bit more from him, but as the match went on, he played better. A little bit like what happened against Udinese in the other match he started. So, but you can see his talent. You can see his pace. He's really interesting type of player. I'm really curious to see him playing more with Lazio.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy to think that was only his second start, considering the impact he's made and the fact that the fans already have a very kind of high opinion of him on the whole. With the number of minutes he's had on the pitch, it's not that easy to create that good impression as a new signing. But I suppose his kind of style of play does help. In fact, he's the kind of player that fans love watching. He's direct, he's quick, he's skillful, and he scores goals. And he is the kind of injection of energy that this attack has been needing this season, because more often than not with Luis Alberto in the team, things have become far too lethargic and predictable and a bit too slow, to be honest. And I didn't see anything from Alberto tonight to suggest that he's recovered or he's back. I mean, what is it? Why won't they divulge more information about what's wrong with him? I mean, if there is a problem with him, I feel sorry for him, because at the moment people are losing frustration with the guy. I mean, I was in the stands tonight. I got to, for the first time this season, got to watch Lazio from a fan perspective rather than from the press box, and you do obviously hear the grumbles a lot closer. And he's a player that people are losing patience with. That much is clear. So I do feel bad for him if there is a serious issue. I mean, it's clearly not serious enough to stop him playing, but I do think it's something people need to at least be aware of.
Again, a Sky commentator said that, as I cannot talk today, as we said in the last month he has a sport hernia, and so it's something that doesn't stop you to play. Obviously, it's harder to play like that. I thought today he played better than in the other performance. Honestly, I don't understand what he did in the last minute when he was in front of the goalkeeper. Instead of trying to score, he tried to pass the ball to Ciro Immobile, but Ciro was covered by the defender. It was impossible for Ciro to get on that ball. And, that was the typical Luis Alberto action from last year, and as well as the corner kick where he tried to score directly. So it looks encouraging to see him playing like that, but again, with a sport hernia, you don't know how much he will be able to play. And as you were saying, we don't understand why. Don't say it. Why keep the secret with Luis Alberto and then say Caicedo is probably already out for Sunday? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big chance for Correa now. I mean, you know what? I mean, you mentioned before that I can't remember if it was the last podcast or the one before, but I remember you talking about the injury list that was building up. But does it not say a lot that there are these injury problems throughout the squad? But actually, we're getting quite excited about the prospect of seeing some of these players now. I mean, Caicedo having this injury problem and Alberto having an injury problem means now we definitely get to see Correa, which we're all fairly happy with. But Badel and Lucas get problems, and now we get to see Cataldi, which, from what we've seen, almost everybody is happy about. So, now we get to see Dormisi a little bit as well. So, I think that is really good. But Correa, for me, this is it. This Sassuolo game is a big moment for him because we're about to enter an international break, and in that time it's likely that it doesn't sound like Caicedo's problem is very serious, so it's likely after the international break he'll be back. And Luis Alberto is, no matter what his health problems are, he's a favourite of Inzaghi. Inzaghi likes to play him, we know this. So I think for Correa, having played so well and scored a goal tonight, and kind of impressed in his other opportunities, I think he does need to go and put in a good performance from the start against Sassuolo on Sunday if he's chosen, to make sure that when we come back from that break and we have the Milan game, that he's the number one choice.
And you forgot to mention Berisha. We are really curious to see Berisha playing more.
I didn't forget to mention Berisha. I don't think he's in that discussion for the kind of the number 10 position.
But saying players that we're happy to see now with all this.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But I really believe that Correa has skill completely different from the other players Lazio have. I think they match very well with Ciro Immobile. They're both very fast, and so especially if you play with a very slow defense, they can really create some problem to them. And you add pace with incredible ball skills as Correa has, and that killer instinct that probably Felipe Anderson didn't have that much. It's really exciting to think about Correa starting against Sassuolo and starting for Lazio. I think his season can really start now. He had the chance against Frankfurt. We all remember how it finished badly. It wasn't completely his fault, but now he can start again. And even today, he was impressive. So I'm really excited to see how things go. One thing that worries me, and we had a question about it today, now I have to recall, is are you worried that Immobile plays so many matches? He played as well today, and obviously he will have to play next Sunday against Sassuolo. Today, obviously, we know that Caicedo had to start, but then got injured, so Immobile had to start today. But do you think he's getting tired?
It's inevitable after a while that he will, yeah. I mean, it's impossible to play 3 games a week at the pace that Ciro plays at, and with the style that he goes about. I mean, the reason we all love him, and part of the reason he's such a successful striker, is that he doesn't give up on anything and he chases everything down. But that does mean that he's not a player who's likely to have his body hold up for long if he's doing it for 90 minutes every 3 days. So yeah, I mean, this has been a concern for a long time, though. This isn't necessarily a talking point now. This has been a talking point for quite some time. So nothing's really changed in my mind with this. It's always been a problem. Caicedo's performances have improved, but as I've said time and again this season, his performances have improved as a partner to Immobile, not as a number 9 replacement for Immobile. I still haven't seen him play effectively in that position this season. So, yeah, it is a bit of an issue. And towards the end of the game, I turned around to my friend and said, I want to see Rossi come on at this point. I think it was with about 15 minutes to go. Lazio, they have the lead, and why not? Ciro's done his business, give him a bit of time off, and at least let's get a look at Rossi. Because with Caicedo unavailable, we don't know, we could end up in a situation where we need to call on Rossi. And again, it goes back to the kind of Proto argument. I think we're much better off being in a position where at least you've got some sort of idea of how these players can handle with that situation. And with Rossi, we don't so far. And I'm just desperate to see him on the pitch for some amount of time.
I'm going too further, but he could start against Apollon, maybe. Maybe it's too a risk, but he can start, and then you see what happened in the first half, and then maybe you bring Immobile then in. But I thought that could be a good option.
I think that's down to how seriously Inzaghi's taking the Europa League and how much he wants to win the group. In my mind, I can't imagine that he's taking it nearly as seriously as Serie A. And I think now that we're through the groups, I can't see Inzaghi really giving it 100% for the next 2 games. So I think that could be an opportunity, even if he doesn't start, to see him off the bench.
Honestly, I think you can still win a match with Alessandro Rossi starting, especially if you play well. So, and then you have the last match that will decide everything. I believe you can do a big turnover against Apollon and then play more of the starters against Stuttgart in the last Frankfurt in the last match that is at home that could decide the group. If you win, you go first pretty much. So. But yeah, I would be really happy to see something like that. Stefan Scarpulla, who has been commissioned to complete the Cataldi statue in For Italico.
Yeah, I like this question.
I don't know. We'll find out if they're doing it. And then he asked, will Leva or Badel be back after the international break for Milan? Inzaghi said yes, both should be able to recover after the international break. We see, we are used to bad surprise of players who should have been back for that match and then are not able. So
even for Sunday, it's been suggested. I think with Cataldi playing the way he is, I would still expect him to start, but there is a suggestion that one or both of them could be fit enough to actually be in the squad for Sunday.
Wow, that would be good. But again, Cataldi is giving you guarantee, so why rush them?
Yeah, exactly. And I think Cataldi deserves it. With the 2 games he's had, he deserves to be in the team, and there's no need to rush them back in now.
Especially if he's not tired after playing so much in the last 2 matches. Massier, at this stage, Lazio did a great job. After draw, I thought it would be hard to advance. Which player was the most significant for the team in the Europe League games till now? Alistair?
That's not an easy question. Well, I mean, there's obviously been so much rotation in these games that it's quite hard to pick out anyone in particular. I mean, to be honest, you're still probably looking at Ciro Immobile. He scored in the Apollon game. He got assists tonight. I mean,
2 assists.
He's still 4 assists now. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, he's still the focal point of everything for Lazio going forward. So Europa League campaign so far. I mean, the Frankfurt game was a bit of a disaster, but I think you do have to take the result with a pinch of salt because of the Basta disaster and then Correa as well, obviously being sent off, and that does obviously alter what can be expected of the team in that game. But yeah, on the whole, I think that considering how much changeover we have seen, to come away with 3 wins from 4 and already be through is, like you said in that comment, is a great job. It's and like you said, when we saw the draw, I don't think any of us would have dreamed of being through with 2 games to spare. And when we're bringing up Rossi there, for example, and we constantly talk about the players on the fringes of the team and who needs an opportunity here and there and so on. It's such a bonus, I think, to a coach to be able to say you've got 2 games in the middle of a busy season where you basically do have the opportunity to experiment a little bit and try things out. And I think these are going to be 2 really hard games, by the way, still. Apollon away has already proven to be quite a difficult place to go. Even tonight, I think it was, 3-2, was it?
Yep.
In the end? That was in Cyprus, I think, was it?
Yes.
I need to make sure I get these things right, because apparently in the last podcast I said it was being played on Monday, which is completely wrong. So, I think that they're a much harder team to beat when they're playing at home than away, and I'll expect that to be a tough game. And then obviously Frankfurt, we've already seen what they can do, and that'll be difficult too. So I don't expect Inzaghi to treat the remaining 2 games like a friendly match by any means, but I do think it does actually give him a chance to experiment a little bit more than he'd usually be able to.
I think, as I was saying, the next match, maybe Lazio could rotate a little bit more and give a chance maybe to Alessandro Rossi and give finally a rest to Ciro Immobile. Another player that I would like to see resting is Acerbi. He played every single match this season, so...
Do you not think he just wants to complete the record now? He never wants to stop playing and become the kind of Javier Zanetti, I've gone 70 years without stopping kind of player.
Yeah, probably in his mind he wants to, but you have to think about the team. So Inzaghi has to think about the team. It was curious, Alistair, that Inzaghi said that today the idea was to start Felipe in the central and Acerbi on one of the side. Then when he noticed that Marseille was playing in a different way, he decided to bring back Acerbi in the middle.
Yeah.
That was a little bit surprising.
Well, that's what he did on Sunday when Felipe came off the bench. I think it was on Sunday, was it? And Acerbi got shifted out to the left-hand side. I think, effectively, Acerbi is a left-footed player, and Lazio are short on options when it comes to left-footed players in defence. And obviously, we've tried out Wallace has played there, and Luis Felipe has played there, and Cáceres has played there. But obviously, none of those players are natural left-sided players. So I do think that he's kind of keeping in mind the option of having Acerbi, if anything happened to Radu, he'd have the option of using Felipe in the middle and Acerbi on the left. I do still think it would be smarter to keep Acerbi in the middle, because he does just, as well as how well he's playing there, he does organise the defence from that position as well. But yeah, that does. It strikes me as a good idea to at least try out Felipe in the middle, because he seems to me, to be the most natural player to stand in for Acerbi if anything happened to him. And he's not really had an opportunity yet, obviously, because Acerbi just never stops.
Yes, and it's good to give him some minutes there, so that if he has to play there, he already have played in official matches and has a little bit of experience. Again, another great match of Ramos today. He's growing so fast. He's really impressing me how good he is.
Yeah, he's great. I think one thing that perhaps he could do with, though, is to settle on a position. You know, I mean, on one hand, it is a benefit to him that he's proving himself to be versatile and adaptable, and he's played in every single position across a back three during his time at Lazio. But at the same time, I think for him to actually progress further and take the next big step forwards, he could do with being entrusted with one role and trying his best to understand and properly, perform at his best level in that one role. Because at the moment he's on the right, he's on the left, he's on the bench, and now and then he'll go in the middle. So I don't know. I've been really impressed with him, but I do think it must be a bit difficult for him because he never really knows whereabouts he's going to be playing.
I think he's young and still can test different position. So, I think that's not that bad, and it's really impressive that he can play well in different position. That's the most important thing of Ramos. Even though today Wallace played well, he had to come out. Inzaghi said he had a little problem, so he didn't want to risk. And Bastos came in, and it was funny because in the last 5 minutes, probably he saved the victory of Lazio with that tackle at the last minute against Mitroglou. Lazio made a strange mistake because it was in control and then allowed Mitroglou to be all alone in front of Strakosha, and luckily Bastos was fast enough to recover and tackle and put the ball in corner.
The real talking point here, though, is Bastos' goal drought.
Well, he didn't have a chance. How can he score?
It's a serious problem. I mean, when is he going to score his next goal? I mean, come on. This guy was a goal machine last season, and not seen anything yet.
He didn't have a chance, I think. That's the problem.
Well, with the injury to Caicedo, perhaps an opportunity arises from the ashes.
Absolutely. And you know that Inzaghi is good to see those type of things, so maybe he's thinking about it. Change everything and put it in front. That could be an option.
It was the Inter game, by the way. I just realised I got that wrong with when Acerbi was moved to the left. It was the final kind of 10 minutes of that Inter match when everything was already finished, basically, let's be honest.
Talking about scoring issue, George E.O. asked, should we be concerned that Immobile played another 90 minutes against a poor team with such a big league game coming up in 3 days? I think we didn't have any option. Inzaghi could have put in Rossi, but choose other options. So, yeah, he's tired, but I think he has time to recover for Sunday.
Well, I mean, the other option was that he would start, but then he would be subbed off as opposed to at least save some of his energy, which was what I was kind of hoping for in the final 15 minutes or so. But then again, the other thing is, yes, there's a big game coming up on Sunday, but after that it is an international break, and Roberto Mancini isn't showing any particular willingness to use Immobile in the Italy team, so I don't think he'll be getting too exhausted on international duty. So, hopefully the international break can actually be an opportunity for him to get a bit more rest. I mean, I'd like to see him do well with the national team, but at this point of the season, it might be more beneficial for him to, not be starting every game for Italy.
Yeah, well, he didn't. So, Ramiel Gendi is asking, there are rumors of Rossi wanted to Pescara in January. Well, we know that even this summer, a lot of clubs, Serie B clubs, were asking to have Rossi on loan. He's very well considered. He had a very good summer with Lazio. There were rumors. You remember we talked about maybe Rossi being the first option, the first Vice Immobile in the team. So we know there are a lot of clubs interested in Rossi. For me, at the moment, if Lazio doesn't buy another striker, Inzaghi has to push to keep Rossi, because if Immobile get injured, we don't really have another option there, because we saw that Caicedo, it's better as a trequartista or a second striker near Immobile, not instead of Immobile. So I think at the moment Lazio without Rossi hasn't got any replacement for Ciro Immobile.
Well, you know what the answer is. Sign a Vice Immobile, for God's sake.
I thought you were going Bastos.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bastos could be the option, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, there have been rumors of Rossi moving. There have also been rumors of Lotito being more willing to open his checkbook this January than in other years, because the Champions League is very much the target this year, and he recognises the increased competition. Also, Iglitare supposedly is being given a new contract with the aim of getting Champions League football. I think that if that's going to be achieved, we do need a genuine alternative to Immobile. And in my mind, as much as I love the idea of Rossi and I want to see him get opportunities, he's not. He's clearly not the alternative. Caicedo clearly isn't the alternative. So I do think that would be something the club would need to bring in. I'm not talking about spending 30 million on a superstar. I'm talking about bringing in someone that can do a job. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to Rossi, I suppose I'm a bit divided. I don't see the point in sending him to Pescara, like you say, if we're just left with the same options we've got. But if Lazio did go into the market in January to find a striker who was available, then why not? The guy's young, he needs to be playing.
I really hope Inzaghi give him a chance in this last Europe League matches to test him, to see what level he is. So after that you can really make a decision. Let's not forget that of the top clubs, as we reported, Lazio is the only one who had a positive balance this season. So it could happen, but I don't believe that Milan or Inter is going to spend a lot, or Roma is going to spend a lot of money this January. Lazio would be the only one who has the chance to do it, but it never happened with Lotito. So we're going to see what's going to happen. But there's plenty of time before that. So now it's important that the team focus on Sassuolo. That it's a very important team match, because winning Sunday would be key for Lazio. One, to keep this rhythm of beating small teams, and the other one because if I'm not wrong, there is Milan-Juventus.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope that Milan will drop points against Juventus. There's Atalanta-Inter. It's a tricky match. Roma-Sampdoria. So there is really a chance for Lazio to gain points against the rivals team for the Champions League spot. So it would be really important. It's a 6:00 match on Sunday, Sassuolo-Lazio, and afterwards there's Milan-Juventus. So if you win that, you put even extra pressure on Milan to play against Juventus. They're playing at home, but it's always difficult to play against Juventus.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Like you say, it does look like one of those weekends where a Lazio win could do more than just get us 3 points, but actually take advantage of other results, perhaps. And yeah, I mean, in my mind, this game, Sassuolo away, is probably going to be the hardest, or at least, maybe Fiorentina, but apart from that, the hardest game we've faced outside the big matches. Because, De Zerbi is, he's very highly rated. This is a guy who he was name-checked recently by Pep Guardiola at a coaches' conference as the next big thing in Italian coaching. So he's a guy who he really knows what he's doing, knows how to put together a team, and their results have been a bit hit and miss this season, to be honest. I mean, on the whole, pretty good. They're behind us in the table. You have to remember, but they have been hammered by Milan 4-1. They've been beaten by Juve and Napoli as well, so they've not done too great in the big games. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this match in terms of confidence, because it's an away game, obviously, and on top of that, it's against a very well drilled, well coached team, and it's going to be up to Lazio to basically take the initiative again. And I think it's the kind of game that an early goal would be a huge benefit. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, let's not forget that in the past Lazio have struggled a lot against Sassuolo. It's true that this is a different team. There are not anymore those key players they had in the past. And as you were saying, they struggle a little bit this season and even in the last season. So it will be important because Lazio played on Thursday, has to play away on Sunday, so hasn't got that much time Inzaghi to prepare the match as well, and still don't know who's going to be available for that match because even Lulic could be on doubt. So it's a really important test because it's not easy, but it will also tell us what really this team is. Is it good enough to fight till the end for the Champions League and beat these teams and this tricky match? Because as we were saying, it could be a very important week for Lazio, but losing there, maybe Inter winning against Atalanta and Milan able to take points against Juventus, things could go really badly for Lazio this weekend. So it's really important, a really important match. So I hope Inzaghi prepare it as best as possible and to have more players available Sunday than we had last Sunday.
Yeah, and let's not forget that the first game back after the international break is Lazio-Milan as well. So, I mean, that goes to show how important this weekend could be, because it's an opportunity. If Lazio can get a result and Milan don't, and then Lazio can get a win, we're talking about within 2 Serie A rounds having a 6-point advantage over them, which would be massive, but equally can be flipped the other way around. So we're talking about a very key part of the season here, I think.
Yes, and Biglia would be out. He got surgery today. He will be out for 4 months. So no Lazio Milan for Biglia. Don't know if you're sorry for that.
What a shame.
Alistair, before we wrap it up, do you have a stats for our fan?
I actually do, courtesy of the very kind Ramiel Gendi, who directed me towards one. So here we go. It's actually, I mean, I don't know why this surprised me, but it's up to Paolo tweeted that Lazio have now passed the Europa League group stage for the 6th time in a row. It's quite an impressive record.
Yep, and for the second season in a row, qualified with 2 matches in advance, so that's even more impressive, I would say.
Yeah, it's a great effort. I mean, it's a little bit worrying when you consider that we've managed to get through the groups so often, but have rarely ventured very far into the knockout stages, but that's another discussion.
Well, it's even true that there is one or two rounds more than the Champions League, so it's harder to succeed. But it's good to pass the group that often. So it shows you how the team improved in the last years or so. So that's really good. Alistair, I think we can wrap it up here. It has been a pleasure as usual to chat with you about Lazio. I hope even our listener enjoyed it. And as usual, you can find us on our social media, Twitter, Facebook. And please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and support us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Alistair, good night, and we're going to talk again next Sunday.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Bye, guys. Thank you very much.
Come on, you eagles, there's no time to fear. Up there's an angel watching